Hello everyone, welcome to Black Arrow Gaming. I'm Bob and this is the first episode in my Age of Wonders 3 Advanced Strategy tutorial. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Age of Wonders 3 or who are new to the game, I would recommend watching my beginner's guide first, as that will introduce you to many of the core gameplay mechanics that make Age of Wonders 3 what it is. This video, and the other videos in the series that will follow, are designed more for players who want to get into the advanced strategy and the deeper aspects of gameplay. There are two things I'd like to mention before getting started. First, in this video I will be playing against computer opponents. This makes a difference particularly in terms of tactical combat, where the computer is prone to doing things that you can take advantage of. Of course, some of the things that I do go over will be useful regardless of who you're playing against, particularly with regard to growing your economy, managing your armies, and that sort of thing. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I am by no means an expert at this game. I do consider myself to be a decent player, but I'd like to think that I have lots of room for improvement. So if any of you have useful tips or strategies of your own that you'd like to talk about in the comments, I'd be happy to hear them. I want to make myself a better player just as much as you do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get things started. I am going to be playing against, or in a game with 3 other players. I'm going to have the difficulty on Emperor, a small map size, and I apologize, that's 3 players total, myself included. I'll go ahead and turn teams on, and I'm going to have 2 computers ganged up against me. I think one would probably be too easy, so I'll be taking on 2 Emperor computers, and we'll see how I do. All my other settings look okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. For the moment, I'm going to be playing as my favorite class and leader combination. This is a High Elf Druid with 2 levels of air magic and the partisan specialization. I may try other classes and characters in future series, but for the time being I figured it's best to start with what I'm best at. Alright. And so, without further ado, I suppose we can get started here. The first thing I like to do is check to see what sort of hero I've got. In this case, it's a Dwarf Warlord. This is pretty good for me as an elf, for a few reasons. For one thing, I lack any heavy powered units right now, particularly as an elf druid. The most powerful thing that I have is probably going to be, a Unicorn Rider, so this will be a nice, tough unit to get started with. The other thing that's nice about the dwarves when you're playing as an elf is that their terrain and climate penalties and bonuses are very similar to elves. Elves don't like blighted or tropical environments, and neither do dwarves, but both of them do okay in the snow. So that's not a bad start for me. Let's see here. I kind of want to look around next and determine what's around me. I did not start with a mana node, which is something that I'm notably lacking. I don't even have one within 2 tiles of my city in any direction, so mana might be a little harder for me to come by at the start of this game. Let me see what spells I have available here. A lot of times, if I did have a mana node, I'd transform it to an air node as quickly as possible. That's something that I get from having 2 ranks in the air class, or specialization. Anytime you have 2 ranks in an elemental specialization, you can turn mana nodes into a matching node of your element, and you'll get research and mana bonuses out of it for the remainder of the game as long as you control it. In my case, Fertile Domain is the obvious go-to first choice for a spell, because Fertile Domain will allow me to grow my borders faster, and that's something that I'm going to want to do as quickly as possible. The next thing that I like to do is start looking around for probably either cartographer's tents or some sort of resource that I can pick up. There is some gold out here, so that gives me a reason to run, for example, just one weaker unit off in that direction. So I'll send one of my initiates to pick that up. And I have discovered something useful. Right here there are production resources which will grant me a free building in my city. To get the maximum benefit for having that building, it'd be best for me to get it as soon as possible, so I'll do that on this turn. First though, I do want to pick up this gold over here and see if maybe I can spot a cartographer's tent or something around me that'll give me an indication of where my second city is, because I also want to find that on this turn. This unit over here can help my army fight, and there are some haste berries just beyond that, so a cavalry unit will actually be able to pick those up and run even further. I'll send my horsemen up in this direction, and I'll go ahead and bring probably most of my army up. I don't know if I need the whole thing. I'd like to take my hero, and I'm going to want my king, probably the Storm Sister, and that archer. So send my better units up to fight. And that leaves me with one initiate, which I can actually just send out in this direction and see what's over here. I want to avoid the wetlands because those will slow me down as an elf. I can grab that mana and then probably cut back up in this direction. I do see here that I have ancient ruins just outside of my borders. Those can allow you to build the Pillar of the Stylites in your city, which is this building right here. That will produce pikemen, projectile resistance, and +2 melee damage. So I'll be able to make decent pikemen at this city, at the very least. I'll send this unit kind of down in this direction, and I do see that I have a cartographer's tent out here. So that's something I want to pick up soon. Unfortunately, I'm going to be one space away from it. I also see that there is a bandit camp nearby. So I'm sorry, that's a necromantic circle. I'm going to want to take that out as quickly as possible before it starts spawning units that could threaten my capital. Next thing that I want to do here is probably... yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take my Unicorn Rider and attack that production resource, keeping in mind that you only need one unit in your stack to attack a tile. It will bring all adjacent units in that stack into the battle with it. These guys shouldn't be too hard. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Just a few human archers and a human swordsman. Nothing particularly threatening. The human archers are okay, but my elf archers are far better and can do their max damage at a much longer distance. So I can really soften those guys up. I will probably use my dwarf to run right up behind this rock here. The rock will provide cover from their incoming fire. Of course, they can get around that by moving forward one space and using that as cover for themselves. But for the time being, I can still get a decent shot at them from there. With the Storm Sisters, I think I'm going to hang back. Let's see. Okay, that would give me a line of sight penalty and a range penalty. So I'm going to move them up just a little further and hit that unit twice with some magic. My king is a pretty good archer himself, so he can probably finish that unit off there. Yep, no problem there. And for my Unicorn Rider, I just need to hit that archer once to finish it off. I could charge it straight on, but that would leave these guys within one space of me, allowing them to hit my Unicorn Rider twice. So when you're playing as the elves, it's actually safer to keep in mind that you have this phase ability. You can teleport your Unicorn Rider behind the unit you want to attack. I get a flank attack on it, and that leaves me 2 spaces away from this unit. It also leaves me facing that unit, so that in order to flank me, it would have to walk all the way around. It would only be able to hit me once at that point. These initiates, I'll just bring them up. I'm not really sure what I'm going to have them do. I might have them try to get the finishing hit on those to level them up a bit. More likely than not, these guys are going to run around and attack one of my 2 heroes. Probably the dwarf to get a flank attack. Yep. The computers do prioritize flank attacks pretty heavily. Sometimes at the expense of their own life. As you can see, they've left their back wide open to everything that I've got. I'm going to try to use this situation to get a little experience for a couple different units. I'm going to have my king run back and around. If you notice that I did that, I'm actually building up for a charge. Charge is an ability that grants 6 more damage on the first strike in melee combat, but you have to move a certain number of spaces before it activates to basically build up momentum. That allows me to hit them twice since I get the free flank attack from behind, leaving them vulnerable to this unit. Actually, on second thought, I think I want to level up this High Elf Storm Sister as quickly as possible, so I'm going to let them get the finishing move. They get Inflict Stun at gold rank, and that is a very good thing to have. However, I don't want to shoot them with shock bolts because shooting a unit with a range attack doesn't get you as much experience as you would from just hitting it. And these guys are weak enough that my first 2 hits will kill them without them being able to retaliate. Oh, I was wrong about that. I think I did minimum damage twice, so I got a little unlucky there, but that's okay. The production resources that I got will allow me to get either a henge or a shrine. That's a difficult decision for me to make because both of those would be really good. The shrine would be good because I don't have any other magic generating structures nearby, but I think I want the henge just to boost my growth as much as possible right off the bat here. The henge is of course one of the druid's buildings. On that note, I also want to make a storehouse to boost my growth even further. The quicker I grow this city, the better, because I don't see a whole lot right around me. Now up here, I mentioned that I have those haste berries. I'm going to send this unit over to go grab them, and then try to figure out where I want to go to look for my second city. Since this army is over here, I'll send my king out just here, and there I can see my second city. That should be it anyway. It looks like it's got little elf buildings there. Knowing that, I can move this unit back and run him around to make sure that I make contact with that city on the first turn of the game. I can now open borders and sign a peace treaty with them. You want to do that, if possible, on the first turn of the game, because the sooner you make peace with your second city, the sooner it is that they will offer to become your vassal or even a permanent part of your empire later on in the game. And that was just enough to exhaust that unit's movement points. I also have noticed something else here that's very good for me. This Vault of Knowledge right here will allow me to build very good archers in this city, which is great for an elf, especially an elf druid. I'm going to give him just a little bit, or use up the rest of his movement for this turn, just so it's not wasted. Last thing I need to decide for this first turn is what skill I'm going to research next. One of the things that I want as an archdruid as quickly as possible is the Animistic Knowledge upgrade, which will give all of these treasure sites in my territory extra research on top of the other benefits that they're already providing. That is a strategic spell. I'm sorry, that's an empire upgrade. So the best way to get to that quicker is to research other empire upgrades in the archdruid class. So I'm going to probably get Hunter's Finesse next. I can get rid of those notifications, and that is all I can do on turn 1. It is extremely important to get a good start on turn 1. It kind of sets the pace for the rest of the game. You want to get a sense of your belongings, try to figure out as much about where things are around you as possible. Fertile Domain is ready to cast, so I can get that started right away. I do, however, have an issue now. This spell is active, but it's costing me 20 magic per turn. And that is an issue because I don't have any mana nodes, and since I don't have a shrine, I'm actually losing 10 magic per turn, but I have a decent amount built up. I have 98, so it'll be a little while before I hit 0. That should give me time to build a couple of buildings in my capital, and then get a shrine produced. This unit here, I'll go ahead and pick up that Cartographer's Tent. That shows me where another city is nearby, and that is also an elf city. So I get a little, I don't know, it could be lucky or unlucky. I don't really know for certain. It's oftentimes good to have units from different races, but then again, I do like the elf units. It's why I play as them, so it can't be all bad for me. I am going to run this unit over here right next to this camp, since it shouldn't spawn units for at least a couple turns. And I see that just beyond the camp there is a refugee camp over here that I want to pick up. That will give me a population boost in my city, which would be really nice. It'll actually grow my city's borders faster than I'm really ready for them to grow. I'm going to send this unit back here. I'm not sure if I want to take on that battle just yet. That Watcher is a little tough. So I'm going to send my army back down to deal with clearing out some of these structures around my area. I want to do that as soon as possible because when my city's borders grow, they're going to cover this magma forge, and I want to get the benefits from that as soon as possible, as soon as it becomes available to me. I can leave my horse behind. The rest of my army can move forward. The horse can catch up later. The Elf Initiate I'm going to send up just one space and confirm that yes, that's all mountains up there, so nowhere that it can run. I will probably have the Initiate hang back to defend my city, but first I do see a little area down here that, okay, just another dead end, so nothing down there to be concerned about. Alright, so it's turn 3. I do want to go pick this up right away. And that didn't quite expand my borders, but they will expand on the next turn. And I'll be ready for it when they do, by clearing off that magma forge. Make sure I bring my cavalry down to help out in the battle. These magma forges are sometimes a little tough, particularly when they have draconian flamers in them. I get Tigran Sun Guards, which are also maybe even a little tougher to deal with. However, the slowing effect of the toxic fumes in these forges won't be such an issue for me, since they're a melee unit and they have to get to me. And I'm a little ranged heavy here. Now they're going to defend, so the trick in this situation is to lure the computer out of its defense and get it to let its guard down. I can pretty much freely move much closer to them. Again, this toxic fumes effect, or choking fumes, is going to slow down all of the units on the battlefield, my own included. So they won't be able to reach me as quickly, and I won't be able to reach them as quickly. And like I said, that's good for me because of how many range units I have. The only problem is that Tigran Sun Guards have those shields, and those will deflect some of the damage from my arrows. It looks like they're going to charge me now that they've seen me. So at this point, what I want to do is I want them to let their guard down, and I kind of want them to do it one at a time. So what I can do is back my units off just a bit, because I don't want them all rushing me at once. I can put my dwarf probably, well, you know what? I'm going to put my horseman right here. And this will lure this unit into running right over here and attacking that horseman. I'm going to position my initiate and my High Elf Storm Sister as close to that as I can, because they will be the ones doing most of the damage in this battle. Tigran Sun Shields won't protect them against magic. And I'll use my Elf Archer, of course, just because extra damage is always good. So he'll do exactly what I thought he would do. Run right in and stab the cavalry. You can't really blame him. He's a pikeman. He's good against cavalry. That's kind of what they do. But in this case, it's not going to work out so well for that poor guy. I can back the initiates off just a little, because they'll still do their full damage at the short range of 3. And the High Elf Longbowman, actually, I could have left back a little further as well, but no big deal there. I'm going to put my Storm Sisters probably back here. I don't really want them getting rushed by all this stuff. And I'll use my Sun Guard to get that first hit. And I can use my Elf Archers to kind of follow up. They'll do quite a bit of damage even through that Sun Shield. These two are probably going to rush my Dwarf on the next turn. I want to find out how much damage my King can do. I only need to do 5. So as long as I leave my King with 2 shots, I'll be guaranteed to kill that. I am going to leave this Unicorn Rider here. The Tigran Sun Guard will be able to attack it twice. That won't be enough to take out all its health, however, and in doing so, he's going to block off this path, meaning the other one would have to run all the way around, and it can't reach my horseman anyway. Now, I do want to make sure my King is protected, and he is. He can only be hit by this unit. Both of them could hit my Dwarf. Nope, I think only one could. Unless they expose themselves to additional attacks of opportunity. So this looks pretty good to me. I like this setup. Anytime you're dealing, when you have a lot of cavalry and you're dealing with pikemen, you really do want to be extremely careful. Alright, and he should go after the Dwarf. Yep. Okay, now I can really hit him hard in retaliation. Of course, I want to pull my King down this way just a bit and move my Storm Sister. Oh, unfortunately, the Storm Sister is going to... Normally, it would be able to move 1 space and still fire 3, but the choking fumes, again, is slowing me down, so still kind of an issue. I do notice here that this unit is in a little trouble now. My horseman, it can't really run away from this pikeman, and it can't really attack it either to finish it off, so that horseman's going to need some help. I can give it some by flank attacking the Tigran Sun Guard from an angle with those initiates. And then I can follow up, I think I want to follow up with... I could finish it off with the Storm Sister, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Alright, and my Storm Sister got a level out of that too. Now in this case, I want these Tigran Sun Guards to turn around. So I'm going to shoot them once in the back with an arrow, or twice in the back actually. That'll get them to turn around, which should allow my... I'll go ahead and just shoot them with a crossbow. Should finish them off. There we go. On second thought, I probably should have hit him with a melee attack for the extra experience there, but I was being a little cautious. Alright, well the Magma Forge is mine, and I dealt with probably one of the tougher early game battles. I don't really like fighting in those places. And next thing I think I want to do is take this army over here and clear out this bandit camp before it spawns any units. That could be a problem. This unit here, I don't really have anything better for it to do other than do a little exploring. So I'm going to send it out, I don't really know exactly where, just to kind of look. I do like to move usually just 1 or 2 spaces at a time, so that if I see something out here and I want to turn around for any reason, I have that option. This unit here, I suppose I'll go ahead and send it up in that direction for now. I am going to want to pull both of them back eventually to keep an eye on things in this city. But for now, it's probably safe to go out and explore a little bit. Alright, borders have expanded, giving me access to extra production in this city, and the storehouse is finished. So I'm going to go ahead and build my builder's hall here, and that will get me even more production and help me kind of just get the ball rolling on building more buildings in my city as quickly as possible. Also can take out that necromancer camp here. I think I'm going to leave my cavalry out of this battle. It should be, well, you know, I'll bring them in, but this should be a fairly easy battle. I want to move my king onto that tile because this particular encampment will drop items after I've cleared it. That'll let my king pick them up immediately. So they're not going to charge me, which means I gotta come to them. And when I do that in these open field type battles, I generally like to try to approach from an angle instead of coming head on. That's because units tend to line up for you. If you come at them from an angle, you can get them to come at you in a line instead of as a horde. And it's just safer to deal with units one at a time rather than having to deal with them all at once. I'll move both of these units up as well as the Storm Sisters. Those guys will open up with a range attack, a mix of poison and cold damage. I think my dwarf would be the best. Yeah, poison and cold is what Black Bolts is. So my dwarf is going to absorb damage better from them than any of my other units will. So I'm going to see if I can bait them into attacking the dwarf and have these other units ready to retaliate as soon as they do. Didn't bait them. I can probably tick them off into attacking me, but if they're not going to attack the dwarf, then I'm going to move a couple other units up, and I'll just launch an attack on them on the next turn. I'll leave this unit shielded behind the others for its own safety, since it's rather weak. And probably leave these two units positioned over here to maybe get a flank attack on something if it charges me at the wrong angle. Alright, so they're going to let me open up a volley of attacks on them all at once. So I just move one space forward and fire each unit's ranged weapon 3 times. I can then move the dwarf up to kind of get in the way a little bit. They'll probably shoot black bolts at my king, but this will at least leave my dwarf in a better position to retaliate. I also want to move this unit up a little more, probably behind this cover here, and leave the initiates kind of just hanging out, maybe behind this cover here. So they went after my king like I thought. No big deal. It's too far away for them to really do much of anything. Those lost souls are going to be far more susceptible to magic than weapons, so I'll go ahead and hit them first to fire from my initiate. Of course, they do have low enough health that my arrows would have probably taken them out easily as well, but I'll just let the elf initiates and Storm Sisters do their job. Those reanimators have also let their guard down, leaving them very vulnerable to my attacks. I can go in and hit them once with the dwarf, and that actually will finish them off. I got a Sundering Warhammer, which is actually a great item to start the game early with. It gives your unit guard breaking for its melee attack. Guard breaking will lower the guard of an enemy unit, which would basically mean that instead of me having to try to trick them into attacking me first, I could just attack them and cause them to drop their guard, leaving them vulnerable to flank attacks. However, I do want to give that to my Dwarf Warlord since he's built to hit things with a melee attack. My king is more of an archer. So he can take that, put it in his weapon slot, and that could come in handy in the next battle. I think everything else looks okay. I'll probably split off some of these units to get them just a little bit more movement ahead of everybody else. And I'm going to send this initiate up the road a little ways. I can see out here some snowy terrain. Shrine to the Forest Beauty. Frost Beauty, I think, actually. And, okay, I've discovered a monster den. That is something that is actually more of a benefit to me than anything else because of the fact that I'm a druid and I can convert animals to join my side, but only after my king is leveled up a couple times. So right now, it is kind of a threat. I'll come back there later and try to get something out of it. In the meantime, I'll send this unit to grab these haste berries, which have regrown by this point. Going this way, I'm going to run into what looks like either mountain ranges or a mana node that will have enemy units on it, so I'll send the unit over here instead and continue exploring this area. On this next turn, I will have one of my tougher early game battles. Okay, so this is a strong treasure site, and this is the structure that will give me the Pillar of the Stylites that I mentioned earlier. Okay, that's kind of what I was afraid of. This place is full of berserkers plus one bard that can charm a unit. This is actually kind of a tough battle, so I'm going to abort the attack because this unit is still injured. I'm going to give it a little more time to heal and maybe attack on the next turn. Knowing that that monster den out there, or is out there, I'm going to send this unit back down this way. Maybe explore one more day's walk in this direction, and then probably head back to my city. Alright, this unit is still moving in this direction, and a little stroke of good luck for me here. There's another set of haste berries right along my way. I'm going to edge up just enough to where I can see. Okay, I got one more move or line of sight in that direction, and as I can see, there is a trading post out there. Those have tough enemies but really good items. You can barely see it in the fog of war there, so I'm definitely going to want to pick that up later. But first, I'm going to come down and meet this other elf city, which is great. I now have even more allies. And this city should be... okay, it has a quest available for me. End the Undead Scourge. Oh, this is very nice. I can get a vassal proposal and a High Elf Storm Sister. Very, very good. Yeah, I'll gladly accept that. I'll explore a little bit further in this direction with this unit. I see out here there's a dungeon, which means this city could produce a little better infantry than my other cities could. But elves aren't really... infantry is not exactly their strong point. A little gold I can pick up. And I'll just have them wait for this turn, my main army. Okay, so first things first, I did get a race governance level up. I'm going to pick High Elf Patron Military. The High Elf Patron Economic will give shooting grounds in High Elf cities an extra 50 food, which will help your city grow a little faster. But the Patron Military upgrade makes shooting grounds give High Elf Longbowmen and Hunters +1 range damage. Since I'll be using archers quite a bit this game, I'd much rather have the extra damage for them. Now, before any tough battle, I would of course recommend saving it. In my case, I don't reload when things go south. I usually just try to roll with it and do as well as I can. This is not going to be an easy battle. I'm not looking forward to this, so I might actually let my Unicorn Rider regenerate maybe even another turn or two worth of health. It sort of depends on when this city will grow next, I suppose. I don't have any pressing things that I have to be doing out here right now, except for ending that undead scourge as quickly as possible in order to fulfill that quest for that city. In fact, that is perhaps even a higher priority than this ruin at this time. I don't know, I really do want to get this while I'm down here so I don't have to come back down. Maybe it would be worth taking a look at what sort of spells I have available to me. So, my king doesn't have anything that was really going to help me in this battle. Actually, I think he does. Yes, this Twisting Roots spell will impede all units moving by land. All walking units on the battlefield will spend 12 per hex instead of 6. That will cut the movement cost of all units on the battlefield in half, which is good for me because I have many archers. This unit has Berserk as an option, which would be great if I can use it to get a Berserker to go nuts and attack its friends. Last Stand and Lion's Courage I don't think would be as useful in this situation. I'd like to take a look, see if it'll tell me what this unit has. I should still be able to Berserk that unit. So, considering my spells, I think I'd be okay to go ahead and do this combat. But you really never, ever, ever want to take Berserkers lightly. On the plus side, it looks like they are going to charge me. I'm going to make this as difficult for them as possible. I'm going to go ahead and cast Twisting Roots now, I think. I'm also going to shift my army before doing that, so I get as much movement for them as I can. I'm going to move this unit here, so I can take one shot at the Orc Berserker. And this unit here, so I can get a few more in. My king, I will just move down in this direction, and the archers I want to just run over here as well. And I will go ahead and cast that spell now. So that affects everyone, and slows them to a crawl, just 2 spaces per turn. Now this leaves me at a huge advantage, because I can actually move 1 space, fire several times, and just keep hitting them with really everything that I've got. It almost doesn't matter what angle at this point. And that spell should last for the remainder of combat, as far as I know. Oh, I almost forgot. Those bards do have a range attack. I'm going to have to deal with that. Unfortunately, they moved these berserkers kind of in the way, so I'm not really going to be able to run out there and attack it because they would be able to reach the archer if I moved up 1 spot. No big deal, though. These Storm Sisters can finish off that unit. My Initiates can just barely hit that one. My Dwarf can hit it as well. My King can shoot it 3 times from this angle. And I'll back my Cavalry off and my Archers off just a bit. And shoot it a few times with my Archer as well. I'll have my horse defend for now. I suspect that the Bard is going to try to shoot them again. Okay. I can now pretty easily, I think, finish those guys off. I am going to continue my retreating action here, just because I really want to get rid of that Bard. It's irritating me, just shooting things at me. But I'm going to be safer just waiting and letting my Unicorn Rider absorb maybe just 1 or 2 more hits. I am getting backed into a little bit of a corner here, but that's fine because these guys are, for the most part, pretty much dead. I believe all my units have used their range attacks, except for the Initiates. That's okay. I kind of forgot about them, but we'll get them in on the next one. And the Unicorn Rider is now beat up enough to the point where I'm going to phase it back here and have it defend. Okay, so now I can really hit this unit with everything that I've got. Should be 2 strikes from those Storm Sisters. And I'll move this guy up just a bit. I'm going to have those... Well, actually, first I want to make sure that I can kill these guys before getting greedy here. Okay. Alright. So my archers took a little bit of a hit there. I'm going to actually move them back here. So they're sort of behind the line. The Goblin Berserker only has 2 health, so from this angle they should be able to finish it off easily. And that puts them a little further away from this Dwarf Bard. My King then can shoot it twice, and then on the next turn it shouldn't be an issue to finish that off. The High Elf Unicorn Rider can just stay where it is. Alright, so at this point it's really just a question of which unit do I want to get experience for this kill. And I'll probably give it to my heroes. Again, do the basic melee attack if possible. And there we go. So it helps to go into a battle like that with a decent plan. In my case, twisting roots made all the difference. You saw how many arrows it took to bring those berserkers down, and there were 3 of them. Those guys do a tremendous amount of damage if they get up close, so without that spell I would have almost certainly lost at least 1 unit, maybe more than that. But in this case, however, I get several promotions, nobody died, and I get some decent items as well as some research. This Ring of Heat Deflection will give me some fire protection, so that's really nice to have. My King also leveled up. I want to get Nature's Resistance as soon as possible. That gives +1 resistance to all units in my army, and resistance is kind of hard to come by in this game, so I'll gladly take that. And then I usually like, for that first level, to just bump health a little bit. In my Warlord's case, who also leveled up, for him I'm probably just going to give him a lot of health right now. He's not leading his own army yet, so getting things like Defense Command don't really help me out that much since he's sort of training with my King for the time being. When he goes out on his own, I'll get him some of those sorts of things that give him bonuses to the army that's following him. And now I can take this army and head back out. And when my borders expand, that little ruin will be ready for them. I can take this unit here, explore a little more in this region. There is another necromancer camp out here, as well as some scrolls of knowledge. Now at this point, it's getting to the point in the game where these things will start spawning units. I would usually say sometime around turn 5, maybe turn 6. So I'm going to start heading back. I'm going to want that unit and probably this one able to defend if I need them to. I do, however, want to grab that gold before turning around. Now I have a pretty good sense of what's around me. I do want to get... this is a good spell, or a good empire upgrade. That'll reduce the the unit upkeep costs for summoned animals. So I really do want that. I can disregard those notifications because I've already dealt with them. I can split this army up just a bit. Actually, you know what? Now that Nature's Resistance is in effect, I think I'm going to leave that whole army bunched together since they're all getting a bonus from being under the control of my king there. And yeah, that looks like it for this turn. So I got a pretty good sense of where things are around me. I've made contact with 2 cities. I have a good quest for one that I can finish soon. Got off to a good start down here and haven't lost any units yet. So off to a pretty good start this game, but I'm at about 45 minutes as well. So I think this is probably a good time to wrap things up. Again, I appreciate any comments in the videos that you guys have. If you saw something I could have done better, I would appreciate hearing about it. And I hope you found this video helpful as well. I suppose that's it for this episode, so as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.